determine what you see and hear. We are the people behind the curtain. We are the invisible ones. Prepare for a glimpse into a world many are unaware of and few have seen. Your journey begins now.
Welcome back to The Invisible Ones, the podcast that peels back the curtain to shine a spotlight on the people in the live events industry. This week, in part 2, we'll get to hear Angel's Little Funny, learn what one thing is both our blessing and our curse, and why someone said, "I will never forget that moment as long as I live," at a corporate event. Here's Angel.
And I wanted to just kind of do a little funny here real quick.
Sure.
That you know me just as a video engineer. But this is also
I know that's mainly
I get you.
But this is portion of how you and I work together.
Right. But I wanted to come back to that like you were talking about. People know you in pockets as different things.
Right.
So they know me in pockets as different things. Like I am a TD in places. I've actually stage managed. I also switch E2. Anyway, I switch. But I also do graphics.
I bet you've run a spider or two in your day, haven't
One
you?
or two.
Do you ever use a kayak?
We've also done EVS. We've done Unreal Engine for stuff. All these other things.
Right.
But that's funny, and I don't take it personal. The thing is, like, you're right. People know you in different pockets. Like I'm sure somewhere somebody still knows you as Tom Gillies LD. As a matter of fact, I was joking with you about the fact that my iPhone still had Tom Gillies LD on it, even though you haven't done that in a while. But the point is, we wear so many hats,
right?
And we're a very diverse crowd. In not only technically, but in life, we're a very diverse crowd, and that's what makes us. I think that's what you're also missing is you're not getting that. Doesn't come through that. There's a lot of things that happen in segments that are part of our character. The part that we've put our lifeblood into it. Especially like designers like Mr. Karlstrom. People like that, that hot potato, whatever it was. I don't know. I hate to say that, but we have to cut it out, whatever. But when somebody's done a certain event, you go, oh, that's that guy. That guy designed that, and that's so cool. So
I think that's true of many in our business. And I would say to your point earlier, we also do in our business. We tend to put people in boxes, and we tend to, based on how we first work with them, we think of them in that way. Especially if they're really good at it, we tend to think, oh, you need a good X, something, call so-and-so, he or she is amazing.
Sure.
Not even knowing that they do something else. And I had the experience, which was kind of funny, just this last year and we were talking about this with a video tech person, Tiffany, who was doing the LED wall for us on something. And we were out after the show and somebody was saying something and they mentioned about lighting in my, with referencing to me, and she looked and she goes, "Wait, you do lighting?
You do lighting, right?"
And it's like, and I did lighting for 20 something years, and worked my way up from grunt electrician pulling 4-aught to full-fledged lighting designer. And here's a person who didn't know that I did that,
right? Because
she had only worked with me as either a TD or a stage manager. And I have clients that only know me as an LD. I have clients that only know me as a TD, and I have clients that only know me as a show caller,
right?
So, and some that know that I do several different things, which during this particular time with COVID, I've sent out a few emails of like, oh, by the way, I do all of these things too, like editing, post-production stuff. I have experience in that, trying to get some other business. And I think that's actually something that is true for a lot of the people in our industry, which we're going to get into in a later podcast about how we learn and how we grow in the industry. But I think that's something to touch upon is that those of us that are the invisible ones, the ones behind the curtain, the engine that drives the magic of a show, many of those people, A, have a lot of skills, and B, are very good at them. And C, are very good at working under pressure with less resources than they actually need.
Absolutely.
And making magic happen every single time. I mean, the biggest thing we talk about now, I actually just did a show the last few days, first show back in almost 6 months. And we were joking around because it's, we're in a studio and we're really doing a TV show. And it was a demo show for the client to show them what's possible with a virtual event, which again, we're going to be getting into virtual events in the next podcast. But kind of as a teaser for that, is I'm sitting in there, and we had 2 days of rehearsal before we did the show.
Right.
And I remember on the second day going, okay, for this particular client and this particular show that we've done, we have now had 900 times more rehearsal time than we ever get on show site, which is necessary for, especially for virtual events. And again, like I said, we'll be getting into that in the next podcast. But that, what we deal with on a regular basis in the live event world is, we're under the gun, we're under time, we're behind schedule and over budget always. And how can you do more with less, and not just less resources, but less time. But they always want it to be right and perfect every time. And the true professionals are in our industry. That's the blessing and the curse of what we do. It's sort of like the superpower and the kryptonite is that we're invisible. Our blessing and curse is that we actually live by that maxim. The show must go on
all the time.
And the people that work in our industry, whether they be the stagehands, the guys pushing boxes, just unloading a truck, or only there for load in, load out, never see the show, or the people that are building this one little aspect of this part of the show, the set builders, the person, calibrating the LED wall, or the projectionist setting up the screens, or the camera director, technical director, lighting designer, board op, audio engineer, the A2 putting microphones on people.
Yeah.
Every single one of them that are, professionals in our industry will work their tail off, will work nonstop without sleep, often sometimes without food, sometimes without a bathroom break.
Yep.
There might be some whining and complaining, but they will do it to make sure that the show happens.
Absolutely.
That's the dedication of the people in our industry. And I think that, like I said in the article, we're not asking for a handout. We're not asking for people to give us a bunch of money so that we can sit on our butts at home. What we're asking for is, first and foremost, we love what we do and we want to get back to work. But secondly, we're asking, and I think this was the toughest ask, and it was in the last paragraph of the article. And I believe that particular aspect of the article was kind of almost downloaded to me, is like, this is what needs to be said. But it was really truly from my heart, was for all the, wow. It's very emotional for me.
Yeah.
For anybody that's ever experienced a magical moment, whether it be at a theater show, and I'm talking like even children's theater. I used to do children's theater.
Sure.
You can have some amazing magical moments with children's theater.
The Wiggles.
Right. I mean, just the magic. If you've ever experienced a magical moment, whether it be at a theater show, a concert, how many people have said, I met my future spouse at this concert.
Sure.
That's a magical moment that wouldn't have happened without that concert. But I'm talking specifically now about the magic of the show, a TV show, a film, any of that stuff, or a corporate event, which we have presented and created and done many magical moments. I mean, you mentioned the one about the widening of the video wall scene
we did at
NVIDIA that one year. Yeah. That your friend said, I will never forget that moment. That was a corporate event.
That was a corporate event, yeah.
I will never forget that moment, he said.
Yeah.
And it was essentially just, a little brief. Well, give us a little brief backstory on what happened.
So we're lucky enough to do one of the coolest shows. It's for the NVIDIA company. They make the graphics cards that, drive a lot of the PC games and everything else, out there. And I also do color calibration with another company, with portrait displays. And I had one of their engineers come to one of our events, for NVIDIA. And, it's basically the technology showcase where NVIDIA shows all the stuff that they've done, and they always do so much. And so this is a very sought after event.
And cutting edge.
Cutting edge,
or as they like to say, bleeding edge of technology, right. Where they're literally sometimes, soldering together some stuff for a demo on site.
Exactly.
To get it ready.
Right. And so I invited them to this because, they're into display, so they wanted to see this. And so we we set up this massive, is a 50 foot wide, I think is LED wall.
It's 5400 something pixels, right? By 1080. It was
it's 7680 wide, 7680. So basically 2 4K displays next to each other.
Right.
If you were to put, but it's massive. It's 50 feet wide, 25 feet high, right?
Yep.
And so, in itself already, it's a massive presentation, which is something you're not going to have in your living room.
Yep.
Even if you go to a movie theater, it's bigger than that. So I got this guy some pretty good, seating, and he's sitting right dead center. And I told him, hey man, we're going to present all this stuff, and you're going to see a live demo, and this is all live. In other words, it hasn't been, pre-rendered like a lot of these sequences are.
That's a big thing about that company, right? is with all the stuff that they do and being on the bleeding edge of technology. If a demo isn't ready, it gets cut.
Yep.
And what they're doing when they're doing their demos, it is all happening in real time. It is live. None of it is canned.
Right.
If it's canned, they'll tell you, we're going to show you a video of this.
Right,
but if it's a demo, it is
and that's what I love about them. And they put their money where their mouth is.
Yes, they do.
and the other cool thing is and I told him, and he couldn't believe it. It's like, when you see this video, you're going to see effects. You're going to see particle effects. Particle effects would be smoke and fire and things that usually took a lot of processing power and used to be rendered, by a lot of machines. Now it's all being done by one video card.
And you're not watching a video. You're watching a real-time render.
Right, and that's what I was getting to, is you can actually stop that particular sequence, because it's more of a sequence. It's not a video. And actually stop and move a little rock here. Like if there's they're in a Martian planet and there might be rock somewhere, so they can move a rock or move an effect or move when a spark comes out of something. That's how amazing this stuff is. And he couldn't believe it, first of all, right? And so I didn't tell him that we were going to do it in twice 4K, 8K, basically 7680, but not full 4K, but not full 8K, but half 8K, which still is pretty big. And not only that, it's being rendered in real time.
Yep.
There's all this other, DLSS technology, AIs driving all the textures, all this other things, the ray tracing, all this other stuff. And so he's sitting there. He goes, "All right, I'm waiting for it." And he's texting me, and I'm running. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm looking at my text.
But let me interject here.
Sure.
With a team of people from NVIDIA that will look at our screens, that will look at some of this stuff and go, "It's off by a pixel."
Right.
By one pixel, and they're correct.
They're absolutely
right. That is their exacting detail.
That's what they do.
That's what they are looking for. That's how exact they want it to be.
Exactly.
They want it to be right, and they will call us out, and they will see it, and they will say, "No, it's off by a pixel. You need to fix that."
Right. And at the end of the day, some people would say, "Man, I just can't work with people like that." And at the end of the day, I love it, because it's you want to be precise, and that's what you're doing. You're doing precise. You're doing precision, and I love that. But anyway,
they're challenging, and I think those of us that work on the high level shows in this industry, we love being challenged.
We love being challenged.
We love meeting that challenge.
Exactly.
And we love sometimes beating that challenge.
Let's be honest, we love getting beat up in sort of a sense.
Yeah.
But
so
anyway,
there's a little bit of a masochist in each of us, I guess.
So going back to my friend, he's sitting in the audience, and I don't like to look at my phone ever while we're on shows. Sometimes you have it if you're texting somebody going, "Hey man, you need to look at something. You need to look, this graphics machine might be something," or we use it as almost like a third method of communication sometimes.
Or when you have those producers on shows that love to text you all day long.
Hey man, what's wrong with this? How come that one wrong?
While you're in the middle of a rehearsal.
Right, exactly. Yep. So the sequence comes up, and the whole thing is we're playing it in the center in 4096 wide, right, by 2160. So that's one 4K image. And there's a sequence where this robot comes down, and maybe we can put the link to the thing because it's still up. It's NVIDIA's CES 2018. I think it was.
No, it was GTC.
GTC.
It was at their GTC conference.
GTC, right,
and it was I think it was 2018 was the one. Yeah, where it was the robot guy who similar to he looks like a Halo character.
He looks like a Halo character.
Right. Hopefully I'm not.
He has a name like Bob or something.
Hopefully I'm not stepping on Wix's toes by saying that. Wixie poo.
But anyway, so this thing happens that, there's a fly through, there's an explosion, there's a little bit of funny stuff that goes on. What's that move? What's the music that plays while he's? It's like
when he dances later, it's Boogie Shoes.
Boogie Shoes, right? He's got Boogie Shoes playing, and then so he hits this thing where he punches the ground, and then some sort of explosion happens or something, and then at that point, Tom on comms, if you can hear him, he goes, "And go wide, preset wide, go." All right. So we take the wall from 4098 and we expand this thing to 7680 by 2160. And you can hear the gasp.
Oh, yeah.
In the audience.
Yep.
Oh, and then Jensen comes out. Jensen's the CEO of NVIDIA. If you don't know who NVIDIA is, what NVIDIA is. And he goes, That's all done live, folks. And it's true. It's actually, that's the coolest part about that to me is like, this thing was rendered live, and some people are like, whatever. And some people are like, wow, all the gamers and all the nerds are out there like me. I'm a nerd, I'm like, I was blown away. Tyler, which is the guy we're talking about, texts me and goes, tell me that isn't true, right? And I'm like, I can't touch my phone right now. Tell me that isn't true. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't answer him. And he keeps texting me, tell me that isn't true. You guys just did that in real time. Yeah. And at the end of the show,
please tell me this guy is lying to me. What he just said. Right. I think the tone behind the text is he has to be full of crap. He is absolutely lying to me right now. Please confirm that.
Right. And he comes up to me and he goes, you guys didn't do that in real time. I go, yeah, man, that was completely done in real time. Yep. Any part of that scene could have been edited. You could have moved any particle in there, any of those things. And he goes, I will never forget that as long as I live. Yeah. And that's the moment we're looking for right there. Right. I will never forget that as long as I live. And that's something I told Tom, and Tom was like, you need to tell that story.
At a corporate event.
Right.
Not a big major motion picture, not a Broadway play, not a big giant arena concert.
Yep.
Not an intimate little gathering of a MTV Unplugged, whatever. Which I guess they don't do that anymore because MTV doesn't do music, right? They just do.
No, they're all about. It's all about situational stuff.
Small, but there are still some big name acts that occasionally do like intimate concerts, right? Sure. Not that a corporate event. I will never forget that moment as long as I live. Yep. And so my point of bringing up that story and getting back to what I was talking about before we did that is in my plea at the end of this article was, and it was from the heart, but it was like, if you have ever experienced something like that in your life at a live event, whatever live event it is, we're going to ask you to do something that we have asked you not to do for time immemorial. And it's really, really hard for us to ask this because I've both been on shows where somebody from the stage will say, "Oh, let's hear it for the crew."
Oh, there's nothing clamors.
And you're lucky because you're usually backstage, so you're like, "Oh, nobody's going to see me." But those of us that are out on the front of house tech riser, we all cringe because we're like, "We're still working. Please, actually, don't turn around and notice." Right. But that was my plea at the end. Was like, I'm going to ask you to do something that we've been asking you not to do forever, and that is notice us.
Right.
Just recognize the fact that we do exist and that there are millions of us and our industry, our livelihood, our very lives in certain cases ended overnight.
Yeah.
And we will be the absolute last industry to come back from COVID. And it's not even for us, the attendees, the CEOs, the corporate execs, the salespeople, the business people, the big money performers, the singers, the songwriters, the musicians, bands, the actors, the actresses, the dancers. You need us to come back because what we create, the magic that we create from behind the scenes without desiring any recognition. We don't want to be the ones on stage. Right. We don't want to be the ones in front of the camera, although we are right now, which is kind of weird.
Trust me, this is hard enough as it is.
I know. Right? So, but we don't do it for the recognition. We do it because we love it. But we also recognize the fact that experience, giving you that experience, having that wow moment, the gasp.
Yeah.
When you hear an audience gasp, that's what gets our rocks off. That's where we go, yes.
Can I add one thing right there real
absolutely.
Quick? Okay. This is about 10 years ago right now. I was doing a show for a company in Dallas called Alpha Media. And we were at the Dallas, I'm going to say this wrong, either Philharmonic or Symphony or whatever, downtown.
Yep.
Right. And we're doing this event and it's all for children. Right. And they just had a symphony perform for them and all this other stuff. And, things to us that are just like, whatever, something we do every day.
Yep.
Right. So at the end of this symphony, Philharmonic, whatever it was, I'm sorry, I'm not educated in that sense. Those people need to come back to
Symphony Orchestra.
Symphony Orchestra. We were setting up a projector, all shooting all the way across and into this massive screen. It was probably like 30 wide by whatever. It was pretty big. And I still remember you talking about the gasp. And all I did was literally put color bars up on the screen and about 1,000 children go, ah, you remember I was watching it the other day on Toy Story when they're in the claw machine, all the little aliens,
right.
and they see Buzz Lightyear. It was exactly that, and right there I remember thinking, that's the reason I do this, because I just heard that from 1,000 kids because I put up color bars. I get it. That's that's an understatement, but it was that, and you were just like, that was so cool.
But
just
for
by
them,
doing that, for them it was
it was magic.
Look at the colors.
It was a
pretty crazy.
magical moment.
Right.
It really was, and you know, for us, it's our work. It's what we do. For them, it is a magical moment. You know, and I tell the story about. It's the hypothetical thing about when I'm trying to explain to people what it takes to put shows on and everything. And I say, you know, the CEO or the producer or whomever comes walking in the ballroom and, you know, they're looking at the set or something and they go, I don't like that. You know, move that over there. You know, how many shows have you done or where we need to flip the room 180 degrees and the show opens tomorrow. You know, you've just spent the last 2 days
call everybody
building
you know.
this thing.
Yeah, call everybody you know. It doesn't matter what it costs right now.
One of the shows, I won't mention the client, but I'm in the Lower East Side of Manhattan in a building that was under construction at the time, building what turned out to be a $6 million project for a company. The portion that I was in charge of was about $3.2 million worth. And we're already running 24/7. I was the TD on the show for the scenic portion of it. And now we're coming up on, you know, the show is like a day away or whatever. They originally told me I had 3 days to put it in. I told them I needed 8.
Right.
I finally got, I think, 5.5. And I go to my two leads, my 2 labor leads from the local, and I go, how many guys can you get me for tomorrow? And he looks at me and goes, well, how many do you need? I said, I don't think you heard me right. I said, how many guys can you get me for tomorrow? Oh, let me go make a call.
Right.
Good answer. Thank you. And he came back later and he's like, I can get you 30 more. Like, that's great.
That's great. Right.
That's awesome.
Start.
Like, how many do you need? I don't think you heard me. So when I tell that story, you know, I kind of use it as this example of the executive or whomever, the design team in this particular case. They come in, they make these big changes, you know, whatever that change is, you know, spin the room 180 degrees. And then they go away. They have a nice dinner. They go to bed.
Right.
They get a good night's sleep. They come back in the next morning and it's done.
Sure.
The thing that they asked for is done. And what they don't realize or they think in their minds is that the crew also left at a reasonable hour, had a nice dinner, got a good night's sleep, and came back in maybe a little bit before they just got there. And magically all this happened. You know, the elves came out from somewhere and did all this stuff. And then maybe like, you know, throughout the day, they might go, oh, hang on, why is Bill a little tired? You know, he seems tired. Is he okay? What's going on there? And it's like, yeah, they've been here all night long.
Right.
They never left. They stayed here and they made the change that you asked for.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you think magically happened, no, that was 28, 30, whatever guys here all night long.
All night long, yep.
Making that happen.
Right. And as you're telling that story, I'm thinking of a story. I still remember I've taken my son to an air show and we were tired at the end of the day. And he asked me, he's like, Dad, are you tired? I go, yeah. And he goes, Dad, what's the most tired you've ever been? And I still, you're talking about that. And I remember.
How old was he when he asked that?
This was this past year. So he's 11, you know, he's starting to get into that. He sees you leaving, he sees you coming back, you know, late, and they start understanding what you're doing. And so, you know, I was like, and I don't expect him to understand it right now, but he's done, you know, since then he's done one show, his first show with me at Alfred Media. So I'll talk about that later.
Yep.
However,
one of our sponsors of the podcast that we'll have a commercial for to provided some of the equipment for the podcast. Alfred Media offers production technology and broadcast services for all of your event needs. You can host your event from their permanent studio in Dallas, on site at a venue of your choice, or completely remote using their control rooms. What sets Alfred Media apart is they have the team, determination, experience, and technology to help you realize your vision for your event, whether it is virtual, hybrid, or live. So visit them online at alfredmedia.com or give them a call at 800-554-9144. That's alfredmedia.com or 1-800-554-9144 and tell them the Invisible One sent you to have your vision realized. Thank you, Alfred Media.
So the story that comes back to me is I was doing a show at the Aria in Las Vegas, this was one of those blistering shows that just, I think I'd been up for 32 hours and I was so tired and I don't think he understood how tired I was. So basically what I did was we'd set up a LED wall, pretty big LED wall, something that 100 foot wide, 20 some odd feet, decent size, not the biggest wall we'd done, but it was a ground stack. So it's a pretty big wall. Needless to say, we were tired and I was so tired that I still remember. And I wanted to tell him, he's like, Dad, what's the most tired you've ever been? And I was like, have you ever slept under a stage while a CEO is giving a keynote and you put your head on a pile of forot? Because that's the softest, most enticing surface you could put your head on to go to sleep, and you slept for the entire keynote. And basically, that's what happened. I mean, we were up 32 hours.
Was the 4-out live? So we're getting that.
Oh, absolutely! You're getting that ring. You're getting that buzz. You're getting those
good electric,
that magnetic stuff going in your head.
For those of you not in the industry, 4-out is capable of handling 400 amps of power per cable.
Right.
And there are 3 hots in that coil that are all running, several hundred amps through them.
Exactly. And so I'm hearing this. I can hear the buzz of the cable, but it didn't matter. I was just so tired.
That was your white noise.
That was my white noise. And you can hear people, every once in a while he says a point and then they start clapping. And I'm like, and to me, I'm listening to the clapping because this thing's about to be over. Because I would just fall asleep for, tens of minutes at a time. But, that was a big, nice rest. But I'm trying, get this across to my child. And, it's like, I literally crawled under because, when the show's going on, there's stagehands in the back. There's people, getting set in dressing rooms and green rooms and whatnot. And I was like, I need somewhere. And I'm not going to walk a Vegas casino up to my room.
Well, plus
walk the half mile.
Plus, but also you're probably thinking, if I go to my room,
I may
not wake up.
Absolutely.
And I have to wake up.
I have to be here.
Because
right.
I have to be back. But by the time this guy's done speaking, I got a gig to do.
Right. So I set up my alarm, right? Because I'm still set up my alarm. I'm still responsible. I set up my alarm under the stage. I can see people's legs sitting down. So the first row. But like you said earlier, the bass is going, right? It's just the low end is going. You can hear every time a video plays or something, and I'm just waking up. And I realized I'm like, I just literally found the piece of 4-aught, and that was my pillow. That's how tired I was, And it's like, you were talking about the dedication of people in this industry, and we've all been up for many, many hours. To me, it's like, we do it because we're dedicated, in retrospect, there's, is it the smartest thing to do? I don't know. Obviously I'm not in the best of shape. There are things that have, could have done better life choices as far as, being healthier and all these kinds of things. But, in the end, we love the industry, and a lot of us, we fall into this thing where we will do anything we have to make this happen.
Exactly.
And a lot of the times to our detriment,
Yep.
However, it's something we love as well. I was watching somebody, the other day, and there's some show on Amazon where it's like, rescue, it's some sort of med rescue. And you have these motocross guys who always break their arms or whatever,
Right.
But they come back to it, right? Yep. Their arm heals, they come right back to it. I know we're not breaking arms or anything like that, but we're just losing sleep and we're gaining weight and all these other things.
Sometimes sometimes people are. They are getting injured. I mean, I had a guy on that New York show who sliced open his shoulder from here all the way around, all the way to the bone.
Right.
Big, massive gash, required almost 40 stitches. Sure. Same show, another guy got run over by a scissor lift, shattered his foot.
Right.
I have been run over by a 60-foot condor. Sure. Thankfully, only broke one bone and didn't actually break it all the way through. And other people, have fallen. Our friend Eric, who fell 50 feet and landed on his feet and shattered, parts of his spine, every bone in his foot, in his feet, excuse me. People do get injured and sometimes die in our industry, and we work in dangerous environments. When I was doing the ice show, we're in a tent that is... when they're carving, it's around 20 degrees or so, but during the show, it's 9 degrees in there. And there's ice. When we were doing the final focus, I'm walking around and I've got guys driving single man lifts,
right?
But there's ice everywhere, and it's easy to slip. And being careful. We can only be in the tent for at the beginning of the day around 2 to 2.5 hours, and then we'd have to get out. By the end of the day, we couldn't be in there for longer than an hour and a half because, and I'm trying to write, take notes and everything, and my fingers just wouldn't work, and guys are up climbing, near truss and near these massive air handlers blowing out all this, freezing cold air.
Yeah.
We do work in dangerous environments, and there is times where people have been injured and killed, et cetera. So there are times where our business can be dangerous, and we do put ourselves at risk health-wise, whether it's lack of sleep or working at height or working with massive amounts of electricity, et cetera. And yet we do it because we love it.
Right.
We'll put in the hours. We'll go without sleep, et cetera.
Exactly.
I think we should actually we should do a contest.
Sure.
Of from our listeners and viewers that are in the industry. We'll set something up where you can write in with what is your longest day that you've ever worked without sleep. Cat naps are okay. Because I know on my longest day I probably took 4 or 5 power naps of, varying lengths from 10 to 30 minutes. But, longest day that you've ever done. And then
I believe we call that a disco nap.
A disco nap? Yeah.
Either a disco nap or a road case nap. Those are okay. Those don't break up the day.
Or as my buddy Wild Bill would like to do is, after a long periods of time, and he would go back to Dimmer Beach, find some Duvetine, and then just wrap himself up in Duvetine and lay right next to the Dimmers because he was a master electrician on the show. And one time this new guy came in and saw this pile of Duvetine and went to go move it and decided to kick it and did not know what he was in for when Bill came out of the Duvetine. And it was in the middle of a show too. Yeah. And just scared the living crap out of this kid.
Well, like the ETC, the old school, the Dimmers, remember they used to have the cover? The cover. And then of course the audio guys have the best blankets. They have, either the Meyer speakers or back in the day, the EAW speakers had the nice covers, and I'm sure they still do. Those were always nice to lay into and take a little, power nap or something. And
on some of the, venues where they are actually, it's an in-house gig and they have, shows coming in. I have a friend who used to manage, and he might still, Humphreys in San Diego.
Okay. Yeah.
And underneath the stage is about 4 feet tall. And under the stage, right at the front of it, there's some mesh that's black, but it's almost a scrim. So the audience can't see under the stage, but if you're under the stage, you can see the audience. And they actually they had a hammock there hanging from underneath the stage. And they had a little couch and everything, and you could, get underneath there, and there was a whole nice layout. Of course, when you're going from ballroom to ballroom or convention center or on the road, you don't always have that. You just kind of find whatever you can to lie down on. So I think we should do that contest, and which kind of leads me to the fact that we are eventually going to be having some merch. I've got a sort of an example of it here. We've got our coffee mug with the Invisible Ones logo. And maybe that'll come in. Maybe we'll put up another one. And then on the other side, it'll have the initial, our little bug here for our Spanish-speaking friends. This is not your uncle. This is the initials for the podcast. And we're going to have hats. We're going to have T-shirts. So maybe we do that contest. What's your longest day? And the winner of the longest day gets some piece of merch or something like that.
Sure,
so we'll figure that out. Put that in there. And speaking of which, so what is your longest day?
It ended up being, this was a while back. This is, I think it was either LDI, back when LDI was in Orlando or something like that. It was.
Well, it's either Orlando or Vegas.
Well, I know there was flights involved, and I did
year.
Right, not this year. So I know that I'd started in the West Coast, and I can't really, after doing this for however long we said, I still can't sleep on airplanes. It's not that I'm scared or anything. I just can't do the whole, people bumping into that kind of thing. So I just stay up. And I was like, you get that. When I land, I'll go, I'll get some. And then somebody calls you, hey, man, there's something going on at the booth. All right, and go there. And
I'm
then
totally the same way. In fact, flights to Asia.
Oh, yeah.
Where you would think, I'm going to be on a plane for 17 hours, to Hong Kong. Yep. No, I still don't sleep. I can't sleep on an airplane. Doesn't matter.
So even the first class, the layout,
even with the
thing.
full layout, can't took melatonin, had a glass of whiskey, no, can't sleep.
And so mine was officially 95, and yes, I ended up going to the doctor afterwards. Wasn't cool. And again, and I think we talked about this outside, or it's not really a badge of honor. It's just a fact that, and again, I said, those things have not been great for our health. However, the fact that we're dedicated to it is the point, and you just remember those 95-hour. Mardi Gras was always one of the longest ones for us because it was, we used to do parade after parade after parade. They had all these Mardi Gras balls and all these different venues back when New Orleans had venues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Now there's not many left. But anyway, 95 hours ended up being the biggest one for me. And I'm sure, and again, like I said before, it's probably not the most, but it's definitely not the least,
And I'm sure mine is not probably, I'm sure there are people that have done longer than I have. And mine is 121.
Wow.
And that was I was doing the Christmas tree lighting show, and they were adding this new element that year of these hanging LED curtains, and went to all this stuff. And I had a buddy of mine that does animation who had done all this cool animation for these LED curtains that was going to fill in. I was the lighting designer on that show. And 2 days before we're supposed to open, the client is watching, and the LED curtain, they were having technical issues with the LED curtains. They could not get, we always had 5 out of the 20, I think it was 24, 27 curtains that were 40 feet tall to 60 feet. So 40 feet, 50 feet, and 60 feet with the 3 different lengths. They were 6 feet wide, and it was a pixel every 6 inches.
Wow. Okay.
So the animation we did had to be very simple graphical representation. But anyway, we never had more than or less than 5 curtains that would not, they'd fix this one and another one would
go out,
and we always had 5 that just weren't working, but not the same 5. It was like, okay. And 2 nights before we're supposed to open, the client says, cut them, take them down.
Yep.
Well, I had cut almost a third of my lighting package for the show because the curtains were going to be doing all this stuff. And I was really filling in with my lights. Well, now the curtains are gone. It was 2 10 to 12 minute long shows, all lighting designed to music tracks with hundreds of moving lights, hundreds of LEDs. We had lasers, and all that stuff had been programmed and everything. But my lights, I had to reprogram everything to fill in where the curtains were now not going to be there. And I just started programming, and we opened, and I was literally playing along live, just kind of busking the show because I hadn't reprogrammed that part, just adding more stuff in. And it took me the next 120 hours to reprogram everything and just work, nonstop, day and night in a glass window, in the atrium at the DC Gaylord, which is all glass.
Yeah. No, I know it well.
So I'm working during the day with all these lights that I can't see, watching it on, I had my computer, which was doing MA3D.
Right.
But I had such a bad connection. I was getting 1.5 frames per second. And I'm doing this stuff at like 160 BPM, like, chases and things like that. And it's like on the computer, it's going, boop, boop, boop. And I'm like, I hope that works. We'll see what happens when the sun goes down, But I was actually at the end of that, I took a few cat naps, and at the end of that, I was not that exhausted. I was driven by, the adrenaline of trying to get this thing done and redo all this stuff. But I think that's the point, is that, we in the industry are willing to put our health at risk, our bodies at risk, and do what it takes. That's the dedication that we put into this business because we love it so much, to make that magic happen for everybody.
Absolutely.
That's what we do. And so we're not doing it currently.
And we want to be doing it.
We want to be doing it.
Very desperately.
But we are seeing some alternatives that are starting to happen with virtual events, and which is not just a Zoom meeting, but an actual virtual event. I actually did a show, I think I mentioned earlier, the last few days. We did a demo show for a client. We did it up at Alford Media, one of our sponsors. And we did a demo show for the client. It was all virtual. And thing went off pretty well. And that's what we're going to get into in our next podcast. We're going to talk about virtual events. It's something that the industry has been moving in that direction for many years, with live streaming most live events on a regular basis. But now it's all on the web.
Right.
And how do we do that as an industry? What shifts do we need to make? What how do we sell that to our clients, you know, as a viable option to a live event, and what can be done, what's possible.
It scales up and down,
right?
That kind of thing.
And I think what the big part of that is, and I think I've told people, I think this is the holy grail of virtual events. How do you keep your audience engaged?
Exactly.
That is the number one question that needs to be answered, because if you can't, as we talked about earlier, the importance of live events, the importance of being there in place, in the space, it is critical. But until we can do that, how do we keep that engagement happening?
Right.
How do we provide for our clients that, and it's not the same experience, but an experience that will engage their audience, keep them involved, and get the message out.
Right.
You know, and so what are the ways that we can do that? How do we shift as an industry, as technicians, as salespeople? What do we tell the meeting planners from these companies, and what do we tell the executives we're talking with?
Exactly.
In terms of what's the way to do this? How do we move forward? And how do we incorporate? Because virtual events are not going away.
No.
Even if we go back to live events, virtual events are not going away.
Right.
That's the new normal. So that's what we're going to get into on our next podcast. You have been watching and listening to The Invisible Ones. You can check us out on www.theinvisibleones.us. You can download and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we thank you very much for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Tom.
I'm Angel. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
You guys have a great rest of the day, evening, afternoon. I don't know. Whenever you're listening, whatever the rest of your time is.
Whatever your Zoom, what is it, drink hour is now? That's become popular.
Oh, Zoom happy hour?
Zoom happy hour.
Whatever.
There you go.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoy it.
We thank you. Please subscribe. Please comment and like this podcast. Tell your friends about it. Get the information out. And please help us open the curtain to reveal the invisible ones to the rest of the world. Thanks very much. Take care, everyone. Invisible ones disappearing back behind the curtain till next time in 3,